The film begins with Marnie Watson being driven home in a New York City police car. She stands outside for a few seconds, before going into the house. Shanks, the cop escorting her, tells her not to get used to fresh air. He lets her into the hall, and Shanks tears off the police crime scene tape that had been left there. After they get inside, someone comes to fit her ankle bracelet, and they tell her she cannot move more than 100 feet from the detector in the hallway. Shanks treats Marnie quite badly, telling her she will remain in the house until her sentence is up. He tells her to clean up some blood from the wall, and that she will have lots of time to think about what she did. Marnie argues with him, telling him that if the police had taken her crime report seriously, her husband would still be alive today. The cynical Shanks leaves with indifference. Later that day, Marnie takes all of her husband's pictures and belongings and puts them in her basement, where the detector goes off. She then paints over the blood on the wall. She calls the power company about having her power restored, and they tell her they can't make it until Monday, so she has to light some candles. Later that night, she is in bed and hears footsteps, but it turns out to be a cat. She continues to hear the footsteps and goes downstairs, where she finds a homeless man and threatens to stab him if he doesn't leave. The next day, a local delivery boy, Joey, arrives and brings her shopping over. He tells her he lives in the same street, and compliments her house. She tells him she needs him to come by regularly, and he says he will do it for the tips. Marnie watches him leave, with a look of lust in her eyes. Later that night, she is going upstairs, when the ghost of her husband, Mike Watson, pushes her down the stairs. As she crawls to the front door, she sets the detector off. She stands up, and Mike lunges at her. Shanks arrives a short time later and finds her unconscious at the front door. She tells him she fell down the stairs. He asks her if someone is beating her, but she tells him she wouldn't cover for anyone. He then chastises her for not cleaning up the blood stain, which has reappeared on the wall. The next day, she cleans it up again. She goes to make herself a cup of coffee, when the cupboard starts to rattle, and plates fly across the room at her. She shouts at Mike that he had it coming because he beat her for years. Joey comes over the next day and tells her he knows what happened in her house. She then reads a book on exorcising spirits and finds out that it is necessary to remove the dead person's belongings from the house. She collects Mike's things from the basement, and he attacks her. She grabs his case, but Shanks appears and tells her he heard screaming. He decides that Joey is hitting her. He believes that she is covering for Mike's killer, and tells her he will protect her. She tells him he can't protect her. He tells her he read Mike's files and saw what he did to her. He apologizes for not doing anything at the time. After Shanks leaves, she drops her ring down the sink and reaches in to collect it. Mike grabs her hand and pulls it into the drain, cutting it up. After some digging around, she finds a crawl space under her bedroom floor that is filled with money. She invites a priest, Father Pritchett, over to her house, and donates the money to the church. She asks him to bless her house, and he tells her that he can't do it. After he leaves, the ghost Mike seals up the house, and throws furniture at Marnie. She escapes, and phones Joey. He tells her he will come over, but she says he better don't. He arrives at her house and begins to shout to let him in. She throws the keys down, and he enters. They make love, and in the morning, Mike appears, and attacks Joey, breaking his bones. Marnie hides Joey in the crawlspace, as Shanks arrives, demanding to know why Joey is hitting her. She tells him to leave, as Joey's corpse falls into the hallway. He arrests her for Joey's murder, just as Mike sends her flying across the room. Shanks notices this, and Mike attacks him too. He tells Mike to stay away from Marnie, but Mike sets the house on fire and throws them both into the basement. Marnie takes off her ring and throws it into the furnace, finally destroying Mike's ghost. Shanks tells her to escape, and she gets on a bus to leave New York forever, while he tells people that she died in the fire.